Hi everyone, welcome back to Learning with Leah. I'm so happy that you could join me today as we are talking about cooking verbs. I'm sure that many of you like to cook and might like to try new recipes, and sometimes you might not know all of the verbs when you are reading a recipe. So I thought I would tell you today and explain some of these verbs together. So let's get started. All right, so the most common verb when we talk about cooking is the verb cook, right? So when we say cook, that is a very general kind of verb. So cook could be used for when you make cookies or chicken or any kind of food. You can use the word cook for. All right, the word bake. Now this is a little more specific. So when we use the verb bake, we are referring to when we cook using the oven. Okay? When we cook something on the stove, on the top part of your stove, that is not baking. Baking is when you open the oven and put the food in the oven. So many times when we bake something, not always, but sometimes are like things like bread or cookies or sweets that we put in the oven. But you can also bake chicken or savory dishes too. But that is more specific than cook. Bake is when you use the oven. Next verb we have is grill. Grilling is another way to cook. So if you grill, and another word for that is barbecue. You might know that word. So when you barbecue or grill food, you use a specific kind of machine or appliance, and normally it's outside where you grill. And you either use gas or coals to heat the grill. And that will leave nice lines on your food that you are grilling. Many times people grill meat outside on the grill. Next, the verb we have is fry. If we fry something, many times we use a skillet for that. So I'll show you. So many times we use something like this to fry in. So when you use the word fry, that means you're using some oil and putting something in it to fry on maybe medium heat, for example. So maybe chicken, it says to fry the chicken. You put oil in your skillet or pan and you cook the chicken in the oil. The next verb is saute. You might use this kind of pan as well with sauteing, but to saute something means that you cook lightly and maybe a little bit of oil as well, but it's a shorter cook. You just begin to brown the vegetables or whatever it's telling you to saute. So maybe many times in recipes, they say to saute the onions or saute the vegetables. That means that you cook it a little. You don't cook it all the way, just enough to brown them or to make them a little cooked. All right, next we have is boil. When we boil something, normally we are boiling a liquid. So you might use a pan. This is a small example. This is a small pan. That is a pan where you can put water or liquid, some kind of liquid like chicken broth, for example. And you will put water in here. You put it on high heat to boil. And when the liquid begins to bubble and starts to create bubbles and come up to the top, that means that it is boiling. okay? The boil means when it's rolling very fast at high heat. If you are simmering something, it's a small or slow boil. So simmering means that you will put it on a maybe lower heat, maybe low or medium heat. So it is a slower boil. There are still bubbles, but they are smaller and slower. Okay, let's move on to measure something. If you are measuring something, you are getting the correct amount. So if something calls for a tablespoon, you will need to find the tablespoon and scoop off and measure. So this means you're not just throwing in any kind of food, but you are making sure you have the correct amount of food. So you can use measuring spoons, measuring cups. Some call for cups or grams sometimes, and also a liquid measuring cup. Okay, so these are different ways to measure. You can also use a scale to measure as well. This is a scale to measure the weight of the food. Okay. All right, let's see. Next we have pour. If you are pouring something, that means you are transferring, you're moving liquid from one place to another. So maybe it says to pour the liquid into the bowl. This is pouring, to pour. Okay. All right, next we have drain. To drain means to remove the extra liquid. Okay, so maybe you had some pasta and you were boiling pasta and there is lots of water, extra water you don't need. You might use a colander to drain the water. You pour the noodles in here, and the excess water, the extra water, comes out. That is draining the extra water. Drain. All right. Good job, guys, so far. Let's see, we have chop and dice. So to chop and dice, these are synonyms. They are the same meaning when you're cutting. You use a knife to cut the vegetables, okay? And you cut them into squares, little squares. The difference is the size of the vegetable or whatever you are cutting. Normally chop is bigger, dice is smaller, but they are very similar. To slice, you will also use a knife. To slice means, so where chop and dice were squares, slice, you are just making one cut through your vegetable. Maybe you are cutting a cucumber or you are cutting a carrot and it says to slice the vegetables. That means you just make one cut after another. So they are just, it's one round piece, for example. All right, next, to peel. So to peel means to remove, to take away the outside skin of the vegetable. So many times a recipe will say to peel a potato or a carrot, for example. That means to take off, to remove the dirty skin, the outside of the vegetable. So I have a peeler here, and this is what I use. There are many different kinds of peelers, and I remove off of the carrot or the potato the extra skin. That's peeling. All right, stir and mix. There are many different verbs we use in English, and we are talking about combining things together. So if we are stirring or mixing, that means you are mixing things together. You're stirring together, okay? They are synonyms, so it means the same thing. Okay. Okay, whisk and beat. So this whisk, the word whisk is a verb. It is also a noun. So this is a whisk. So this is the noun, whisk. But if I do this in maybe in my bowl, that is the verb whisk. I am whisking. Okay. So whenever we whisk very hard, we can also use the verb beat. Okay. Many times we use the verbs whisk and beat when we talk about eggs. If we use an egg to maybe make scrambled eggs or to put an egg in a recipe, the recipe might say whisk, but it also might say beat. It's the same thing. It just means to mix very, very hard. All right, and the last one we have is knead. To knead something refers to when you make dough. So when you are making bread or any sort of rolls or something that rises in the oven, you will knead. Okay, it means you take the dough that you have mixed together and you press to work the dough, and that is called kneading. So here the K is silent. We do not say the K. Knead. All right, that is all. I hope that these cooking vocabulary verbs will help you in your future as you are reading recipes and you are maybe making a recipe for yourself. So I hope this was helpful for you. Make sure you like this video if it was helpful and comment below. I'd love to hear some suggestions on recipes that you have and using some of these verbs. So let me know in a comment below. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see more from me. All right, see you next time.